Hey, I'm Katie Miller, a course creation coach and social media strategist navigating business, motherhood, and life while calling BS along the way. If you are tired of the overwhelming amount of information we have access to these days and are confused about where to even begin, you're in the right place. Join me as I talk with small business owners to sort it all out and give some tips to move your business forward. Welcome back to another episode of Katy Calls BS. This week we are talking to Craig. He is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, medical hypnosis specialist. These are a lot of big words. Neuro-linguistic programming specialist and founder of Arizona. I can't say that word.
I know. I come up with the worst business names that no one can spell and no one can say. Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, because
Thank
I'm in
you.
neuro-linguistic programming and a medical hypnotherapist.
I can say hypnotherapy is that
Yeah, integrative.
There you go.
I thought I was trying to
Integrative.
be fancy.
I help people eliminate the negative emotions and limiting beliefs, which we love around here, that may be keeping them from reaching their full potential. For over 12 years, Craig has been helping people heal from early childhood trauma, helping cancer patients with pain control, veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, students with test anxiety, entrepreneurs with confidence, athletes with peak performance, and anyone who may be dealing with overwhelm, fear, and anxiety, all things that I know we all can relate to. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Thank you, Kay. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for a while now because you have such a unique take on the world and the truth within it. So I appreciate you inviting me onto the show.
Of course, I'm excited to dive into what we're going to talk about today. But before we
Yeah.
do, can you kind of give me like how you got to where you are now and what you're
Sure.
doing now?
Well, I think like many people who get into the healing professions, especially more around the emotional health and mental health aspects of it, is I was dealing with my own hurt and pain. I struggled a lot with depression and anxiety as a teenager, and that was the 1980s. And there wasn't the medications that they have now. Those had come out to the mid 90s, late 90s. And so is kind of talk therapy and whatever book you might be able to find at the bookstore, at the library. And, a teenager, you're probably going to do neither. So just kind of struggle with it. And just, as I moved into the 1990s, just kind of thought that this is the way it was going to be. This is how it is. And it was really the birth of my son in the year 2000 that I really decided I needed to get my act together. My mother struggled with depression. I struggled with depression. So it's either a nature or nurture thing. It's either mirroring what's going on in the home and copying what you see around you, or it's a genetic thing. Either way, my son's kind of screwed. So I wanted to, fix myself. So if it ever came to him, I would be able to have some tools that I could, show him and help him with. And so I just started doing the work. I wasn't really too thrilled with the kind of side effects that were going on with the medications at the time. And so I just started looking for other ways. The internet was brand new at the time, and so you had access to a lot more information than whatever you could find at the library or the bookstore. And so I just started working on myself. And one of the things that I used to work on myself was hypnotherapy. And the reason why is because it was one of the things that was usually mentioned in whatever blog post or article or book I was reading to, self-improvement book, a self-development, personal growth kind of books or articles or blog posts or whatever it was. And they would mention lots of different things, but there was usually one constant, and it was hypnotherapy. And so the more I looked into it, the more I thought maybe it could be helpful for what I was going through. And I worked with somebody who really helped me deal with some stuff. And I got to a point later on where I liked it so much, and I was writing books about depression and kind of doing the speaking thing with this new thing called podcasts back in 2010, 2012, and had my own podcast for a while talking about this kind of stuff. And I got to a point where I was able to maybe start a second career, I guess, a second life in midlife, and was able to train as a hypnotherapist. and went to a wonderful school, amazing academy called the Hypnotherapy Academy of America in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Been there around 30 years, extraordinary training, 2.5 months, 500 hours, and really learned the great foundation and been learning ever since and working with people. And it's quite extraordinary work. And we'll dive a little bit more into what it's all about. Because when I came across your podcast, and it's a fun, unique show you have. But my pitch to you was almost like maybe a reverse Katy Calls bullshit.
Mhm.
Oops, sorry,
No,
Katy
you
Calls
can say
BS.
it. That's it. That's
Okay,
why it's
sorry.
called what it is.
And I thought, because there's so much baggage around the word hypnosis, there's so much, oh, I don't want to go to a hypnotherapist because they're going to make me cluck like a chicken or bark like a
Right.
dog or dance like Michael Jackson or whatever for their amusement. And a lot of that comes from what they see on TV and, in the movies and the Las Vegas shows and comedy clubs and things. And, I thought, oh, well, let's call bullshit on the bullshitters.
Hmm.
And I
That's my
thought that
favorite
might
kind of
be,
way.
yeah. And so I thought we could talk a little bit more about in a few minutes here, just talk more about the science of it and the research behind it all.
Because it's so true, because people don't really understand what it is. I think there's a lot of, I mean, it's kind of like that with therapy in general too. Like people kind of don't know what they don't know about really diving deeper. And you see a lot more of it now than we used to. I mean, I'm a big fan of all kinds of therapy. At this point, especially for depression, anxiety, like you mentioned, that's something that I've dealt with as well. And it's sort of like you can either do something about it and dive into it and like go head first into the problem, or you can just let it like consume you. And I think
Yeah.
when people don't understand, because it is that, especially with, I think, something like hypnotherapy, when you've had these images of like, oh, you have all these people lined up on a stage and someone's going to say a word and like clap, and then they're going to make you like sing a song, and you're like, well, I'm not going to do that. That's not what I want to do. Is that
Yeah.
what hypnotherapy is? And you're like, no, that's like, it's so much more than
Yeah.
that. If people could understand what it is, it's kind of like, a lot of people don't understand what EMDR therapy is either. Like they don't understand. They think that therapy is just like talk therapy. That's it. And
Yeah.
that's the only kind. And I'm like, there's so much more to it that it can do so much more and help you beyond just like going to sit. It's not lying down on a couch either. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
these images that we've had of like what therapy, the word, like it's such a broad word to encompass all these different types of therapy too. So maybe that's part of what we can talk about too. But what are we calling BS on today? You kind of
Well,
mentioned.
yeah, this the issue around well, what we were just talking about. I think a lot of it comes from the shows and what you see on TV and in the movies. And you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. You just kind of mentioned that. I don't want to go up there and do that. Then don't go up there. The
Mhm.
reason people go up there and have fun at a show like in Las Vegas or at a comedy club or something, it's because they want to. They literally volunteered to be up there. And let's just take out the equation of them being in the local improv troupe or they're
Mhm.
just actors being hired to do this show. Let's say they're let's go with that it's the real volunteers who want to be up there. They volunteered. I mean, they already bought a ticket to the show. They sat down in their seat when the hypnotist comes out and say, "Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. We're here to have a good time and have lots of fun. Who wants to get up on stage and have a great evening?" And a bunch of people, wave their hands and jump up and down. Me, pick me. So who's the hypnotist going to pick? The people who don't want to be up on stage and are crossing their arms. I don't want to be up there. They're not going to make me do that. Or are you going to pick the people who are so enthusiastic they're jumping up and down and waving their hands? Of course, they're going to pick the enthusiastic people because that's going to make for a great show because they want to do it. And then they get up on stage. There's 10 seats. They all sit down in their chairs and they go down the line. What's your name? Where you're from? And do you want to go into hypnosis and have a great show? And it's like, yes, I do. And these people say yes, like 7 times before this, hypnotist makes them dance like Michael Jackson or sing like Elvis Presley or imitate Beyonce or whatever the gag is, because they're exhibitionists, they're extroverts.
Mhm.
They want to get up there and have a funny video to put on Instagram or TikTok or, just be funny in front of their friends. They want to do it. And so they do, and they have a good time. So what if you want to heal? What are the
Mhm.
possibilities? And I think the biggest problem is that they're using the same word for these two different aspects of there's entertainment hypnosis and there's therapeutic hypnosis.
Mm.
And while maybe using the same kind of techniques and the same ways of moving people deeper into a quieted state of mind and body, there's two different aspects of it. One's just to make people have a smile on their face, have a good time, and the other is to do some deep healing work. And there's nothing magical or mystical about this work. Again, it's not, you can't like turn Jason Bourne into an assassin. You can't, make Jason Bourne assassinate the Prime Minister of England by hypnotizing him. That's not the way it works. That's just to move a plot point forward. So they save themselves a bunch of time in the movie and a bunch of money, filming a bunch of scenes that are kind of boring. It's just, oh, let's just hypnotize them. That's done in 30 seconds. Let's move on with the movie or the TV show. And so with this work, really what we're doing is just quieting down the body and mind. And by doing that, you quiet down the conscious level of mind and you access the subconscious where all that hurt and pain is held. And it's held there because your subconscious mind is trying to protect you. It wants to keep you safe. It's there for survival, which doesn't necessarily mean your happiness and your success.
Right.
It just means it's trying to keep you alive. And by holding on to trauma and things that have caused fear and anger and anxiety and stress, again, it's not against you. It's just, it doesn't want you to experience that again. So it kind of keeps these files in a filing cabinet in your subconscious mind. And even if when you were a little kid, it holds on to all that stuff, even stuff you can't remember. And if anything comes into your conscious awareness through, coming through your five senses of what you see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, or through unconsciously, if something registers one of those files, like triggers one of those files, you'll get the warning signals. And if someone pulls a fire alarm in a building, the lights and the sirens go off, warning everybody that there's danger. We also have a warning system, and that warning system is the feeling states of anxiety and anger and fear. It's trying to warn us that there's danger in the external environment. That's what your subconscious mind is great at doing, protecting you. But you may be using the instructions that were set up by a child, to hide, to keep yourself small. And maybe that kept you safe as a child, but that doesn't really work well when you're an adult. But those instructions are still in there. And what's great about therapeutic hypnosis is it helps you rewrite those instructions. And you're allowed to do that. You're the one who put them in there, not to say that it was your fault or that you're the victim, or like playing the victim or anything like that, or that it should have happened or to blame you. But it's just, well, if you're the one who put those instructions in there, even as a child, well, that becomes very empowering because that means you can change them. And what hypnosis does is just by relaxing the mind, relaxing the body, you can access those files. And what do you need to do with them? You need to delete them. You need to amend them. You need to edit them. And again, there's nothing magical or mystical about this work. In fact, the word hypnosis comes from Greek mythology and the Greek god Hypnos, who is the Greek god of sleep. And back in the 1850s, there was a doctor in England by the name of Dr. James Bard, and he was a surgeon. And back then, he didn't have fancy hospitals. He didn't have fancy anesthesia. If you're having your leg amputated, you're biting down on a stick, or it blow to the head to knock you unconscious. And so what Dr. James Bard started doing is using a deep, deep, deep trance state, putting people so far into trance that it looked like they were in a coma. And then he could do amputations. He could cut people open and take out tumors and sew them back up and then deal with war injuries and all sorts of stuff. Now, he didn't invent the trance state. Certainly over in India and Egypt and South America and the Aboriginals of Australia, they're using trance in their spiritual and healing work thousands upon thousands of years ago. But in 1850, Dr. James Bard started using this coma-like state and needing a word to describe it to his colleagues and to write about it. He decided to name this coma-like state after the Greek god of sleep. And so he called it hypnosis. And since then, over the last, 170 some years, it's grown to encompass all sorts of altered states of consciousness. Now, there's another kind of scary word that people take
Mm-hmm.
out of context because they you see it in the movies and you see it like, oh, my friend did a bad LSD trip and went into this altered state of consciousness and never came out or whatever. And what we're talking about in terms of altering your consciousness isn't something as dramatic as an LSD trip or doing ayahuasca or something. What we're talking about is just what you encounter throughout your day.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever driven home, let's say it's after work or you're picking up the kids from school and you're driving home, you think, oh, okay, we got to get that report done for work tomorrow. I got to get that PowerPoint presentation done, or I got family coming over the weekend. I need to get the house together. I need to get the shopping done. And all of a sudden you find yourself in your driveway or you find yourself in your parking spot. You don't remember the last 5 or 6 blocks. You just altered your state of consciousness.
I was gonna
You
say, are you
know,
gonna talk about getting home and you have no idea how you got there? Because I've
yeah,
done that. We've all done that, where you're like,
we've all done that.
you've driven home and you're like, how did
Yeah,
I drive home? And like, what just happened that I made it home safely and I don't
yeah.
remember like driving?
You just put yourself in a state of hypnosis.
It's kind of
And it's
wild.
not a scary thing. It's wild, but it's also you're that's the way your mind has been set up because it will take the tasks that you know how to do and do them automatically. You don't have to think about tying your shoes. You don't have to think about zipping up your
Mhm.
jacket. You don't have to think about walking across the room or down the street. You don't have to think about driving a car because you've done it so much. But you also don't have to think about driving home. And that's usually when people experience it, driving home, because you've lived there probably for many years. And 365 days a year, you've driven home thousands of times. You know how to
Mhm.
drive home. You know the turns and the stops and the slow downs. You know how to do it. So you just do it, just like you just tie your shoes. You just walk down the street. You don't have to think about it. And that's the brilliance of the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. And, but again, it's also there to protect you. And by altering your state of consciousness in that way, you can access those files that have maybe causing the hurt and the pain. And so, really, all we're talking about is brainwave state. And the famous ones we learned about in school were beta, alpha, theta, and delta.
Mhm.
Beta is what you and I are in right now, Katie. Your listeners are in. Concentrating. Well, maybe they're not concentrating. I mean, it's in background, but you and I are concentrating on this conversation we're having, and we're firing about 18 cycles per second when all the neurons in your brain are firing. Because I'm right now throwing my arms around, talking with my hands, and I'm firing neurons. I walk down the street, I'm firing neurons. I think a thought, I feel an emotion, I'm firing brain cells in my brain. It goes in a wave from the back to the front to the back again. That's one wave. Beta consciousness is 18 cycles per second, somewhere around there. And let's use the example of me being back in high school math class. And I'm paying attention. It's going to be on the test. I need to do well in this class. I need to do well in this next test. And so I'm paying attention. I'm writing down notes. And I'm in beta brainwave state. I'm firing about 18 cycles per second. But this class is so boring to me. And then I just kind of start staring out the window and I start doing one of
Mhm.
these. And I start thinking about the weekend. It's like, oh, we're going to have so much fun. We're going to hang out with my friends. We're going to go do this. We're going to do that. And now I've turned off the external world and I've moved inward. And the teacher's still talking and kids are still acting up and doing whatever they're doing and asking questions and talking to each other. But I'm not paying attention to that. I've moved inward and I'm now thinking about my future in a few days. And I've now slowed down my brainwave state. Now I'm firing about 12 cycles per second. I'm in the alpha brainwave state. And then, my eyes start getting heavy. I start nodding my head down. And now I'm moving into, I'm not really asleep, but I'm not really awake either. It's that theta brainwave state. Like when you get to sleep in on a Saturday morning and you're just hiding under
Yes.
the covers, you're just not really asleep, not really awake. That's the theta brainwave state. But now I'm firing about 6 cycles per second. And in a minute or two, I'm going to be fast asleep down in delta, firing at 1/2 cycle per second. But the teacher sees me and says, "Hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board?" And I jolt awake and I'm looking around and all the kids are staring at me and the teacher's looking at me. And he's pretty pissed. And I'm looking at the board and I see this big equation. I don't know how to do that. I wasn't paying attention. And now I'm stressed. I'm firing about 30 cycles per second because
Mm.
now I'm the fight or flight stress response. I'm embarrassed. I don't know how to do this thing. And in just the course of 5, 6, 7 minutes, I've altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4 times.
Hmm.
And that's just, a handful of minutes in math class.
Yeah.
What's going on at work, what's going on driving home, what's going on when your 5-year-old is telling you a story about the invisible, monkey that's his best friend, and all of a sudden you start thinking about, oh boy, I gotta get that report done by Friday,
Yeah.
otherwise the boss is going to be mad. you know
So how many
you're
times
altering it.
throughout the day does it happen anyway? So I think like
Yeah.
that understanding of it is helpful when people start thinking about hypnosis of like how many times are you altering your brain waves throughout the day anyways?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And it's we don't do anything in therapeutic hypnosis that you're not doing anyway.
yeah.
We're just doing it on purpose.
Hmm.
And it's, and that whole thing with the watch or whatever, when you're swinging the watch that you see in the old
Right.
movies and things, it's just a way to put you in that alpha brainwave state. Focus. And you have that. You remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off? I'm sure a lot
Yes.
of your listeners remember Ferris Bueller and the teacher doing the economics
Hmm.
lecture. Bueller, that guy is like, and what is it called? Voodoo economics. And you see the kids, they're all like lying on their desks,
Yes,
they're
they're like
drooling. He put
dying.
every single one of them in a hypnotic trance state because of his boring voice.
Hmm.
And if you were just to focus on something, and the watch is stereotypical, but you could just do it like, here, stare at that spot on the wall. Just kind of hazily focus on it. And you kind of bore yourself into that alpha brainwave state. And then a lot of hypnotherapists use that, hypnotic trance voice. And now go deeper and because you're trying to do Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You're trying to get them into that, bored out
Right.
state so you can then start the healing work.
So,
And so, a lot of it just gets blown out of proportion and made um, exaggerated for the movies and TV shows. And people see like an episode of Gilligan's Island and say, oh, I know all about hypnosis. I'm not going to do that kind of work. It's like, well, maybe that was Gilligan's Island.
right.
They're just doing it for this 20-minute comedy
Entertainment of
show. They're
like,
trying to, but what's extraordinary is there's so much research. So much. There was a research study that came out a few months ago. National Institutes of Health is actually originally published in Frontiers of Psychology, and it was a 20-year meta-analysis. So that meaning that they just don't do one study. They look at lots and lots of studies, like 40, 50 different studies over the course of 20 years, and showed that hypnotherapy had a 99.2% success rate. I'll
wow.
give you the link to this. You can show it to your thing. In fact, I have it right
Yeah,
here.
that
And
just that
it's
just
a
like
long title,
that just
but it's like,
triggered my psychology background right there. Like
yeah,
you said, meta-analysis. I was like, what?
you're
That
all,
just pulled up like my psychology undergrad life. I think that like, do you
yeah.
think that people are hesitant or more hesitant to do hypnotherapy because of the lack of understanding
Oh,
of
yeah,
what it
yeah.
is?
Yeah. And it's very frustrating because we're like the witch doctors. So we
Mm,
are we are therapists of last resort.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the people I see, it's just there's nothing else they can do.
Like they've tried everything else.
They've done years and years and years of talk therapy and they still hurt. They're still in pain.
Mm-hmm.
They've been to all the doctors. They've done everything. They've done the medications. They hated that. They've done years and years of work and they're still in pain and they're still hurt. And somebody says, well, there's hypnotherapy. And they're so worn down. They're like,
They're like, there's
okay, I
got to be
guess I'll try it.
something. Yeah.
What else can I do? This is it. I'm hypnotherapy is usually last on the list. And then, and not to say it's 100% guarantee. Of course, it's depending on who you work with and
Right. Well, I mean, that's like
all
therapy
that.
in
But it's like
general, I think, though.
generally, it's like we're looking at like 2, 3, 4 sessions. That's what's
Yeah.
extraordinary about this. Your subconscious mind is for you and wants you to heal. So
That's
when you
what I
give it
think.
the opportunity, you will heal.
I think that's what people don't like. That's what's so incredible to me. Like when as I've on my own therapeutic journey, the subconscious part of it is it's like to see that part or to heal that part and like
Yeah.
to unlock the really deep stuff.
Mm.
Like has changed a whole lot for me after years and years of just talk therapy and like moving into because I've done more like EMDR stuff
Yeah.
than and going like deeper into that. I've done talk therapy, I've done like medication, I've done a lot of different things. And I would say EMDR has been helpful. It's a lot of work. Like all of it is a lot of work. And being
Mm.
willing and open to do that work, I think it can be really scary because I think for a lot of people, like what we've been saying, that like opening up the subconscious, you're like, oh, that seems scary. Like I'm going deep, but then you realize you're like, it's you.
Yeah.
You're going into your own filing cabinet and you're going into your own files and these own systems that you set up for whatever reason, for whatever thing that happened to kind of reprogram. So why wouldn't you, if you have the
Yeah.
opportunity to go do that? Because these things that happened, like in a way to heal whatever happened to you in the past, and be able to heal that. Like that's why I'm a fan of whatever, because I'm like, I want to heal those things because I don't want to live
Yeah.
in the pain. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
live in the pain or have the same anxieties or the same pain or the same traumas that just keep coming up and keep coming up and keep coming up. You want to be done with, you want to be like, can we be done now? Can we
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like
Well, and I think I got stuck in that myself, just in that you just think this is the way it's going to be
mm-hmm,
because you've done so many or you've tried so many different
right.
things. And it's sort of just like you're wearing this kind of heavy coat
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, well, this is who I
Like I
am. It's
want to
like,
take it
no,
off.
no, yeah,
I don't want to
and
wear
that's the
it.
thing.
Yeah,
Take it off. That's the
exactly.
thing. It's like, and it doesn't, you don't need to take 2 years to take it off. Just take off. And that may be
Exactly.
the actual analogy that needs to be used. Okay, fill up all the pockets of your coat with all the hurt and the pain and the things, and now take off the coat and throw it in the fire and turn it to ash. Nothing's coming back from ash.
Yes.
And that's part of the healing process is playing pretend.
Mm-hmm.
And because the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, that's why a nightmare feels so scary. If you ever have, and Katie, I'm sure your listeners maybe have experienced that or their kids have, and it could be something so ridiculous, this nightmare. It could be something realistic, like a veteran having a PTSD dream about the war, even though the war is 30 years ago. It seems so realistic, just
Mm-hmm.
even though they're lying cozy, comfortable in bed. But can also be something super real, ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
and stupid, like a gigantic cheeseburger and his two hot dog friends are chasing you down the street throwing coconuts at you. It's stupid. It's
Mine is
not going to
always my
happen.
teeth are gonna
You know,
fall out, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, are my teeth there? Like it feels so
yeah, and you
real.
think because you think it's so real.
No, like
And
legitimately, they felt
yeah.
like in the dream, like in my nightmare, they have fallen out. Like I feel like they're loose when I wake up, and it's the
Yeah.
worst dream. It's the worst nightmare.
and
I
you
haven't
and you
had it
wake up
forever.
stressed. You wake up stressed and anxious
I hate
because you
it.
thought it was real. And no
Uh-huh.
matter how ridiculous or how silly it may be or how frightening, like losing all your teeth, it'll even in deep sleep, it'll turn on the stress response. Your brain starts creating that
Yep.
adrenaline, that cortisol, that 300% more blood is moving to the big muscles of your arms to fight, 300% more blood to the big muscles of your legs to escape. That's got to come from somewhere. So
Yeah.
it's turning down the power in your immune system, turning down the power in your digestive system, and it's literally changing you. It's changing
Mhm.
your body. It's literally changing your physiology while in deep sleep because it thinks you're in danger. So again, we're not going to do anything you don't do already. So we're just going
Yeah.
to do it on purpose. So what if you use your imagination for healing? What if you
Hmm.
use your imagination to go to a beautiful healing place that's just for you, where you feel so safe, and you walk into a beautiful pool of water, and there's a beautiful waterfall, and it's blue healing energy. Is there such a thing? Probably not. There's probably no place on earth where there's a waterfall of blue healing energy. But you could pretend, and this waterfall is washing away all the stress and anxiety, just like you've been working out in the garden all day long, but you're all dirty and sweaty. Now just wash it all away. And in fact, that washes on the inside too. And just
Hmm.
notice where you feel that stress and tension that, and what color is it? And some people may say it's like black goo, or it's like a heavy red, spiky ball, or something. It's okay. Wash it away. Wash it out the bottom of your feet, and just see it floating down the stream. You know, is that really happening? No, but your mind can't tell the difference, and it will change your physiology to match what you're thinking and feeling.
And
And so again,
that's
this is
what I
stuff
love
we're
about it.
using.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I love is that they're like, I don't, the thing that always blows my mind is that there are options beyond what people think. And I think what hopefully people take away from this episode is that there are more options than what they think there are. Like trying
yeah,
hypnotherapy, if there's not a reason to live in your pain at this point. There are
yeah,
so many other options because I don't think it's worth it to live in your pain, especially now, because there's things that you can do about it and we have access to so much more, especially if there's not something in someone's area, because we have the ability to meet people virtually too. Uh,
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I do a lot of my work, hypnotherapy work over Zoom now, but after the whole COVID situation. Uh,
mhm.
People like, and it's easy, it's convenient, and that people feel relaxed and comfortable in their homes. It actually works better according to research. So
Interesting.
than
Yeah,
in
there's
person.
just
Yeah.
options. And I just would like, I think now people are more aware of it too. And I know that like I always say my friends and I talk about how exhausting it is to be the cycle breaking generation. Cause I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
us are doing a lot of work and a lot of like
Yeah.
on ourselves and healing traumas that we've had and talking about them, and we'll hear our parents' generations say things like, "What trauma? You didn't have childhood trauma." And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
We're like,
Well, and it's also, when you hear stories of your grandparents and your great
mhm,
grandparents, and it was a lot of drinking and a lot of smacking
mhm.
people around, and
Yeah,
you know,
those are
and
different
then you
times.
see, yeah, and yeah, different. But that's the thing; they stayed in their hurt and pain because they didn't know what to do about it.
Yeah, and we
You
know
know,
now.
Yeah, differently now, especially with just all the work that's come out, especially around Milton Erickson and Virginia Cité and Gestalt therapy and all these things that were coming out in the 60s and well into the 70s. And so much research has been going on just the last 50 years. And if people want to do a deeper dive in the actual research, if you didn't know, there's an actual subsection of Google where you can just research journal articles, things published in medical journals, scientific journals, and it's Google Scholar, but it's
Mhm.
scholar.google.com. But if you just go to regular Google and you just put in Google Scholar, it'll come up. And all it does is you put in their search engine what let's say hypnotherapy and cancer, and it'll give you all the research papers that have been
Mhm.
published in medical journals, scientific journals that relate to hypnotherapy and cancer or whatever it is you want to look for. Look for the meta-analysis I was just talking about. This is what it's called. I just pulled it up just for fun because it's meta-analytic evidence on the efficacy of hypnosis for mental and somatic health issues, a 20-year perspective.
Wow.
And so that's just one of the articles and that's the one that showed that it has this like 99% positive effects
Hmm.
for their outcomes. And that's extraordinary.
That is.
What other modality has that? Again, that's not just me saying that and like wishing it to be true. That
No, it's
was actually
research
published
backed.
in Frontiers of Psychology back in 2023 and is now on the National Institutes of Health website. And so this has gone from, playing like the make-believe movie stuff that you can just snap your fingers 3 times or people going to deep dive into some of the stuff like MK Ultra, which I'm guessing they're probably still doing. They're just calling it something else. But it's not that.
Hmm.
That's something totally different. What this is a means of healing yourself and what's extraordinary about this work is I'm not going to fix you.
Hmm.
And hypnotherapy in and of itself is not going to fix you. You're going to fix yourself. And
Hmm.
that's why this doesn't take years and years and years. This doesn't take 90 sessions over 2 years, and then you're still in hurt and pain. You know what the problem is, even if it's unconscious. It's held within your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is trying to protect you from something, and maybe you
Hmm.
don't remember what it is anymore. Or maybe it was so traumatic you kind of put a cover over it because you don't want to have to think about it all the time. But you know what it is because it's there. Your subconscious mind is trying to protect you from it. And even if this work is done unconsciously or non-contextually, meaning you're not even really sure what it's about, there's lots of techniques and processes to use. You don't have to, and I think a lot of people, well, I don't want to dive into the dirt
Hmm.
and just,
That's a
like that. It's
big
like,
part of
okay,
it.
fine, then let's not do that.
Yeah, I've
Let's
been fine
heal
up
in the way
until
you
now.
need to heal.
I'm gonna leave
Yeah.
it where it is because I don't want, if I dive into it, that's just bringing up a whole bunch of issues.
Yeah. So
I think
let's
a lot
not
of
do
people
that
feel
then.
that. Yeah.
In fact, let's just keep it all in the cupboard. Let's take the cupboard off the wall with all that stuff in it and throw it into the fire and watch it turn to ash.
Hmm.
And let's now put something else up there on the wall. Let's put a cupboard full of love and joy and happiness, or whatever
Yeah.
the metaphor is, or the analogy or the symbolism. Your subconscious mind loves that kind of stuff. And even if you just take that cupboard, squish it down to the size of a marble, and throw it behind you. Now it's all behind you.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that simple. It doesn't have to be digging in the mud.
Yeah, it's not
Maybe
sorting through.
maybe that's necessary. But if it is, and it's done in a safe way, have yourself sit in a movie theater. Is this movie theater just for you? You're the only one there. And now put that issue that you want to deal with up on the movie screen. And now, while you're sitting in a movie theater, move out of yourself and up into the projection booth. So now you're looking out that little window at yourself watching the movie. So now you've disassociated from it 2 times, and so you're not experiencing it. It's on a movie, and you're not even watching the movie. You're watching yourself watch the movie. And so this is how this can be done in a safe way. You're behind a wall, looking through a little window, looking at yourself, looking at the movie of the issue. And this is how it can be done in a safe and gentle way. You don't have to experience it again.
Which is I think you've given such great examples of how it can be done in a way where it's like you're not going back and reliving whatever trauma it was. If someone doesn't want to relive the trauma or unpack it all over again, right, that there are options, that it's like if someone wants to do this work, that there are ways to do it in a way that it's not like, oh, I'm going to go back into it and great, I've got to like gear up and I need to be ready to like dive back into it. And I don't know if I really want to go and unpack it, but there are ways to go back into it without like really like going and digging through all the things. If you've kept it in its nice, neat little box, then you can still keep it.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that and what you said a little bit ago, you don't have to sit in your hurt and pain. You don't have to hold on to it. Yeah. I think we just get used to it. It's like, this is who I am, but it's not. It's like gripping onto a pin. You grip onto a pin so long, it starts feeling familiar and even comfortably miserable, but you're comfortable holding onto this pin. Here, I got a pin right here. And then after a while, you just say, well, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. But it's not. Just open up your hand and drop the pin. Yeah, let it go. Let it go. And it can be that easy. Why couldn't it be? Who told you that it can't be that easy?
Exactly.
And once they're,
so many options. I think there are a lot of options, and I think people need to know how to connect with you. So where can people find you?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, like I say, I like to title my businesses with really difficult and hard to pronounce and spell names. But I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, and the name of my practice is called Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. If you just Googled Flagstaff Hypnosis, you'll find me.
Okay.
I work with people around the country, around the world. I guess technically I've done a few times, because of Zoom, and do most of it just like this, just, talking to somebody over Zoom, and it works really, really well. And I'm not just me. It's the research showing that whether it's talk therapy or a doctor's appointment or therapeutic hypnosis, Zoom sessions work as well as, and maybe even better than in person, because people feel relaxed and comfortable, and they don't have to drive across town on a Friday afternoon in rush hour traffic to try to get their appointment on time. It just works well. Yeah. You feel safe in your homes. Yeah.
Well, and I'll make sure I have the links in the show notes so people can find you easily. But I like to end with a fun question. So if you could travel anywhere in the world today, where would you go and why?
Probably anywhere in the world, and why? I'm actually going to do it in a couple of weeks. Craig Meriwether, you don't get more English than that. My ancestry is like 95% United Kingdom. And I'm going to make my first trip with my wife, Christina, to England in a couple of weeks. And one of the places we're going to visit is a church in Longstratton, where my great-great-great-grandfather was the priest in 1620.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's going to be cool to see.
Yeah. And it's not a big grand cathedral. It's just like a little small village church that's been around since the 1500s. And he was priest there for about 20 years, from 1620-ish to 1640, 1642, something like that. And
wow,
it's always been kind of my dream to go visit that and see his name written in the records. And so we're going to do that in a couple of weeks.
Well, cool. Enjoy your trip. Yeah. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks you, Katie. Like I said, I've been looking forward to it, and I appreciate you giving me the time to talk about this.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Katy Calls BS. You can find more information about our guest and Katy in the show notes below. Be sure to subscribe, share, and review, and don't forget to tag us.